All right, following the release of the Mueller report last week, questions are rightly being asked about what comes next. Congressman Doug Collins tweeted this, quote, claims Mueller report punts the special counsel's work to Congress is just wrong. The report analyzes Congress's constitutional authority to legislate. It does not upend the separation of powers by calling Congress to continue a completed DOJ investigation. Joining us now in his first interview, by the way, since the Mueller report came out, he was out of the country. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham. We kind of needed you last week, and there you are. I don't know where the heck you were, but we could have used you.
I'd have to shoot you.
All right, let's get your general thoughts and reaction, and more importantly, what you're going to do.
Okay. Well, number one, the idea that the Mueller report is not the final word on all things Trump, Russia, collusion, and obstruction is news to me. I thought we all trusted Mueller. So here's what I think is going on in the House. There's going to be a stampede to impeach President Trump. They're going to use the Mueller report, anything they can find to try to destroy his presidency. Nancy Pelosi's not in charge of the Democratic Party. The radical left is in charge. So I expect that they will be impeachment proceedings against President Trump. And the Mueller report, to me, is vindication of President Trump.
Well, you said it's over. I agree with you. You said a stampede for impeachment.
It is over for me.
Let me tell you, I think now we have a 9-month investigation by the FBI. Even Strzok and Page said, there's no there. We had nothing, Page said. Then we had the House Intel Committee investigation. Then the bipartisan Senate Committee. Now the Mueller report. You can't say it any more clearly, no collusion. So now the American people, the answer's in on this. If they want to do this, on top of the Green Deal, what are the political ramifications for not serving the American people?
Well, I think they'll get punished in 2020, and I think President Trump will get reelected. I know what happened in '98 when the American people understood what they got with Bill Clinton. They understand President Trump, warts and all. And Mueller was the guy that I was going to make sure he looked at the idea of Trump working with the Russians. The verdict is in. There was no collusion. There's no obstruction of a crime that never occurred. The obstruction thing was bizarre to me to begin with. So here's what I think. They're going to be stampeded to impeach Trump because they hate him so much. And I hate it for the country. I hate it for the president, but it's going to result in him getting reelected. The media is not covering the Trump presidency. They're trying to destroy it. The Democratic Party doesn't accept the fact that President Trump won. So at the end of the day, we're just going to have to deal with this in 2020 at the ballot box.
So there are three big components here that have not been resolved. We now know the investigation into Hillary was rigged. Even Strzok and Page said, politically motivated. Loretta Lynch was running every decision. A matter, not an investigation. Then we have the attempt to use a phony Russian dossier, even the New York Times admitting tonight, which is interesting. Washington Post writing, Fox News was right, especially Hannity, whatever. But more importantly, it's not about who's right, but a rigged investigation, an attempt to rig a presidential election, and then undo and unseat a duly elected president. What will you do specifically?
Well, there's before and after the campaign. Before the campaign, I want to find out, did George Papadopoulos, was he working with the Russians, or did they plant in his mind that the Russians had Hillary Clinton's email? In other words, did the knowledge about Russia and the Clinton emails come from somebody other than Russia? How could you use the dossier 4 different times to get a warrant against an American citizen when it's a bunch of garbage? Why didn't they tell the court that it was a politically motivated document? I'm going to try to find out about the counterintelligence investigation, about how the FISA warrant was obtained against Carter Page. Was there an effort to invoke the 25th Amendment? Who's telling the truth, McCabe or Rosenstein? The person who leaked to the Washington Post that General Flynn was being surveilled during the transition period, if you can find out that person, that's probably the one who started all of this.
It might be it might be a lot earlier than the date we were told, which is July 31st. And did they outsource, did our intelligence community outsource illegal activities to our allies to bypass American laws, intel abuse, turned on American citizens, unmasking, leaking? There's a lot to get to here. Lying to Congress. All right, Senator, good to see you. Welcome back, by the way. Joining us now with reaction, dailymail.com editor-at-large Piers Morgan. who, by the way, has become a friend of mine, and he was once a competitor, but, you know, I never disliked him then except about the Second Amendment. We'll debate that one day. You know, I've come to really admire your fight, your wit, your humor. You're very impressive, and I read your stuff all the time. You know, liberals screaming to impeach Trump. You were on fire.
Well, first of all, Sean, thank you for having me. And can I just offer my deepest sympathy to Justice Smollett? It must be awful.
It's terrible.
It must be awful, mustn't it, to have post-traumatic stress disorder from something that you faked yourself? I mean, poor guy. I think our hearts go out to him, right? I mean, all those nightmares about did I or did I not give them the right amount of money in the check I pay these guys to stage the fake race hate, homophobic attack. I mean, do me a favor. So that got me angry before we even started, Sean. But let's turn to this issue of the Mueller report, because there are 400 pages of stuff in there. But what was the report set up to be? The report was set up very clearly to investigate. Mueller was appointed to investigate whether there was a conspiracy by Donald Trump or his campaign team with the Russians to basically fix the election. I can't imagine a more serious charge against any serving president than they betrayed their country with a foreign enemy to fix a U.S. election. And for 2 years, the media in this country and the Democrats and screaming liberal celebrities like Justice Smollett, who led the charge on this for the celebrities, have screamed collusion, 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 collusion. Right? This was a done deal. Mueller was the savior. He was the man on the white horse riding into town to take down President Trump. On collusion with Russia, he would be exposed as a traitor, and this would be the end of his presidency. And then the Mueller report comes out, and it turns out it was all nonsense. It was, to quote Donald Trump, it was fake news. So I turned, Sean, the day after the full report was published, and looked at the papers, the Washington Post and the New York Times, who both won Pulitzer Prizes for their coverage of Russia collusion. And neither of them remembered to mention in their banner headlines the day after the full publication of the full report, neither of them remembered to mention that the conclusion by Mueller was there was no collusion. Instead, they went for more Trump bashing. I turned to cable news, some of your rivals, some I used to work at, and they too moved very swiftly from collusion that they've been screaming about for 2 years to now obstruction of justice. So let's analyze that for a couple of seconds. We're supposed to believe now that Donald Trump committed repeated obstruction of justice over a crime that he now, as we all know, did not commit. So he's trying to obstruct people from investigating something he said he didn't do, that the special counsel has now confirmed he didn't do. It is ridiculous. It is a farce. It's making a mockery, I think, of America, in the same way that back in my country, over Brexit, our departure from the European Union, the people who lost, who voted Remain, I was one of them, refused to accept the result, do not want the country to Brexit. The Liberals here, you saw refusing to accept the result of the Trump win in 2016, but Hillary won the popular vote. Who cares? It's not about the popular vote. And now they refuse to accept the result of the Mueller report, the one that they said would be absolutely the final say, the sacrosanct say. It is a disgrace.
That was so well done. I can't top that. I really can't. You're edgy. The Daily Mail's edgy. This isn't edgy. This is outright lying and conspiracy theories based on mostly on anonymous sources. What is the fallout? I don't think they ever get rid of the fake news branding of Donald Trump.
I am actually staggered that CNN, where I used to work, and I have a lot of friends there, I have great respect for the network.
Fake news.
But I do. But unfortunately on this, they just have gone completely in the tank anti-Trump. And I don't know why they've done that, other than it gives them, a lot of money, I guess. But I think it damages their credibility. I wish they weren't doing it. I wish that somewhere in America would go back to just representing Trump in a fair way, that you could actually say, look, the Mueller report came back and said no collusion. End. Period. Move on. If the Democrats, fueled by the media, now try and continue to fight this, I'm telling you what will happen, Sean. Donald Trump will get reelected, and they're going to have 4 more years of this.
Amazing analysis. We hope you'll come back more often. Great to see you again. Here's Morgan. Thank you.